You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Hey listeners, let me let you in on a little secret. You don't have to stress about planning your class lessons, small groups, and individual sessions anymore. My school counseling membership program, Impact, is here to help. So, what do Impact members get? Monthly curriculum plans across all 3 tiers, SEL lessons, small groups, individual, and seasonal activities, step-by-step video implementation guides, bi-weekly Zoom coaching calls with me, and an exclusive Facebook group community. This membership is designed for school counselors who want to deliver the best possible content to their students, but who also want to just press the easy button. You'll get access to monthly curriculum plans, resources, support, and community so you can deliver quality, engaging, life-changing counseling lessons to your kiddos. So what do you think? Are you ready to make an impact? Join today at stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact. Hey there, thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. So this month we're talking all about social skills, and we're going to start with that Tier 1 level, and that is the social skills class lesson. So I have a few strategies for you to use today. So these episodes are meant to give you like actionable strategies that you can use at your school right away. So I'm going to share with you some activities you could do in a class lesson. Now, I do want to say at the class lesson level, you want to keep in mind that this is going to be the most broad of your social skills teaching, right? Because there's a variety of levels of understanding. Some students are going to be proficient in social skills and feel like this doesn't apply to them, and then some students are going to be really struggling and like still not really get it and probably going to need a group or individual support. So that's how it is with all of our class lessons, right? We want to keep it kind of broad and general because we don't know what everyone's level of understanding is, so we can't really hone in on those deeper skills. So that's why I think these strategies are great to play with the whole class. So first up, you could have people sort things that are okay and not okay to say. So this is kind of like a social filter activity. So you could come up with some cards of things that are okay to say or not okay to say, and you could have them sort them, so break them up into little groups or do it as a whole class. Or you could make it fun and do like a sides of the room activity. So that's where you would have all the kids stand up and say, okay, if you think it's okay to say, you're going to go to this side of the room, not okay, this side, if you're not sure, in the middle. And that's a cool way to get kids up and moving and also learning the same thing. And then, of course, afterwards, you'll have that conversation and talk about, well, why is that not okay to say? Or why is that okay to say? So some examples would be things like, ooh, this tastes disgusting. Like if someone serves you that they cooked for dinner. So that's probably not okay to say, right? That's one of those thoughts we want to keep in our head. And you can explain the whole concept of a social filter, maybe even bring out a filter of sorts to do a visual explanation. That would be really awesome and show how, some things get through the filter and some things do not. Or you could gear it to like if they're meeting someone for the first time, things that are okay to say or not okay to say for the first time meeting someone. So things like, why do you have those bumps on your face? Or why are your parents divorced? Those would be things that are not okay to say. But saying like, what's your favorite band? Or what school were you at before this? Those would be things that are okay to say. So you might be surprised where your students land. And then you can, of course, have those follow-up conversations. The second strategy I have for you is acting it out. So I love to do any kind of acting out in class lessons or in small groups. But in class lessons, I do encourage you to break the kids up into groups and practice their little skits, and then you can present them to the class one by one. So these are all social oopses. So I'm going to give you 5 examples here of some scenarios that they could act out. So you stand really close to the person next to you in line and make them feel uncomfortable. You eat with your mouth open and show all of your food. You only talk about things that you like during a conversation. You interrupt your friend when he's telling a story. Or you need to get by someone, so you push instead of saying, excuse me. So you would have the groups act out, split the kids into 5 groups, have them act out these different scenarios, and then come back as a whole class and discuss why these are social oopses or social faux pas. And you could even weave those into a conversation on general politeness too, right? Like regarding talking with your mouth open or saying, excuse me. You can kind of introduce just some general politeness skills here as well. I'm sure their parents and teachers would appreciate it. The third thing I have for you guys is that you could expand this discussion to discuss things like expected versus unexpected behaviors. So a lot of times expected versus unexpected behaviors are things we'll do in like a self-regulation group, but it is definitely something we could do at the class level if you think your students would benefit from it. So some examples of that would be like Stephanie's reading a book in the library would be an expected behavior, but Stephanie screaming in the library would be an unexpected behavior. Or Jordan hugging his friends is an expected behavior, but Jordan hugging someone he has never met before would be unexpected. So those are kind of silly. It can be like a fun thing to do with kids if they're acting those out as well. And remember, this may seem like common sense stuff, but not to some students. Like we said, we don't know because at the class level, there's a variety of levels of understanding. But for some of your students, this is going to be really super helpful. And some students need to be explicitly taught these social skills. So like I said, because the social proficiency level does vary in a class lesson, social skills are easier to teach in the upper 2 tiers, but I still think it's important to do a social skills class lesson every now and then. So I hope you love those ideas. I have a few resources in my TPT store that I wanted to mention that I'll link to as well. So I have a social filter scenario game that's really fun. I have a social skills board game, and then an expected behaviors social skills card game. So this one I want to talk about. It's really cool. You kind of play it like apples to apples. If you've ever played that game, or like Cards Against Humanity, so it's where everyone has a set of cards that they don't get to pick. So they're just assigned these random cards, and there's a card in the middle, and then you have to decide your best choice to go with that card. So it gets really funny. So for example, if it's the expected behaviors game, it would say like Jordan's at the movies or something, and then in your hand you might have how he should act, and one of your cards says to scream and jump, or one of your cards says to sit quietly and listen, and one of your cards says to run around. So obviously if you have the sit quietly and listen, that's the best choice, right? That's how you should act in the movie theater. So you would put it in and you would probably win that round. But the game gets kind of funny and the kids love it because sometimes you're dealt just a bad hand and you may have all unexpected behaviors and then you still have to play one. So then when you go to read the options, it's kind of silly. So that's something you could, I'll link to the one I have, but you guys could totally make that yourselves as well. It's just like a fun modified apples to apples to teach expected behaviors. So okay guys, I hope you found these class lesson strategies helpful for teaching social skills, and I would love to hear which ones you try out in your class. Tag me or send me a message over on Instagram at Bright Futures Counseling so I can share in the fun with you. Okay, talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.